The bridge of the UES Resilience hummed with quiet energy as Commander Daeho Park stared through the massive viewport. Beyond the reinforced glass, stars stretched endlessly in all directions, each one a potential home to alien civilizations they had never met. His hands gripped the command chair as excitement and nervousness battled in his chest. "Sir, long-range sensors are picking up multiple contacts," said Navigation Officer Yoo-Jin Kim from her station. Her fingers moved quickly across the holographic displays that floated before her seat. The blue light from the screens reflected off her focused face. "I count 37 ships in formation. They are big, Commander, really big." Daeho turned to look at his tactical officer. Hansol Lee was studying his own displays with the careful attention of someone who had trained for this moment his entire career. The young man had graduated top of his class at the Earth Defense Academy, but nothing in his textbooks had prepared him for actual alien contact. "What do you think, Hansol?" Daeho asked quietly. "Are they welcoming us or warning us to stay away?" Hansol looked up from his screens. "Their formation looks like a containment pattern, sir. The kind we use when we want to trap something and study it. They are arranged in a perfect sphere around our position." The communications console began beeping with an incoming signal. Communications Officer Min-Ho Jang looked up with wide eyes. "Sir, they are trying to talk to us. The universal translator is working on their language now." Daeho straightened in his chair. This was the moment humanity had dreamed about for centuries, the moment when they would finally meet other intelligent life in the universe. He had hoped it would be more friendly, but at least it was happening. "Put them on screen, Min-Ho." The main view screen flickered and changed. Instead of stars, they now saw the interior of an alien bridge. The being that appeared was unlike anything in human imagination. It looked like it was made of living crystal, with light flowing through its transparent body in patterns that hurt to watch. When it spoke, its voice sounded like breaking glass. "Unknown primitives," the alien said through the translator. "You have entered sacred space without permission. You will surrender your vessel immediately or face total destruction. I am Fleet Commander of the Dominion Forces. We are the masters of this galaxy." Daeho felt his crew tense around him. Every person on the bridge was hand-picked for this mission. They were the best Earth had to offer, trained in first contact procedures and alien psychology. But theory was very different from reality. "This is Commander Daeho Park of the United Earthship Resilience," he replied, keeping his voice calm and steady. "We come in peace, seeking dialogue with your people. We have no hostile intentions." The alien commander made a sound that might have been laughter. Light flowed faster through its crystalline body, creating patterns that seemed almost hypnotic. "Earth? Humans? That is impossible. Humans are just stories we tell children. Mythical creatures from ancient folklore. You cannot be real." Behind the alien commander, other beings moved around what was clearly a warship bridge. They were different species, but all of them seemed to be staring at the human crew with the same mixture of disbelief and fascination. "I assure you, we are very real," Daeho said. "Perhaps we can discuss this peacefully. There seems to be some misunderstanding." The alien commander leaned forward, its crystal face somehow managing to show contempt. "The stories say humans are weak emotional creatures who burn out quickly in any real fight. They say you are soft and cannot adapt to hardship. If you really are these mythical humans, then you are about to learn why those stories exist." Communication channel closed with a sharp click. Chief Engineer So-Young Choi called from her station near the back of the bridge. "Sir, I am detecting massive energy buildup from their lead ships. They are preparing to fire." Daeho closed his eyes for just a moment. He had hoped their first contact with alien life would be peaceful. Earth had sent the Resilience on a mission of exploration and friendship, but they had also prepared for the possibility that not everyone in the galaxy would be welcoming. "All hands to battle stations," he announced over the ship-wide communication system. "This is not a drill. Prepare for combat." The bridge lighting changed from normal white to combat red. All around the ship, his crew moved to their emergency positions with the smooth efficiency that came from endless training. They had practiced this scenario hundreds of times in simulation, but now it was real. Yujin, begin evasive maneuvers the moment they fire, Daeho ordered. Hansol, prepare. Defensive measures, but do not fire back unless I give the order. So Young, how are our shields? Shield generators are operating at full power, sir. So Young replied. The adaptive matrix should handle anything they throw at us, at least for a while. The first alien energy beams struck the resilience like hammers made of pure light. The ship shook, but the shields held firm. The aliens had clearly expected their opening attack to cripple or destroy the human vessel. Instead, the resilience barely seemed to notice. Impossible, Hansol muttered as he watched his displays. Sir, their energy weapons are incredibly powerful, but our shields are absorbing everything they can throw at us. More beams struck the ship. The resilience moved through space unlike any vessel the aliens had ever seen. Where their ships followed predictable flight patterns based on ancient military doctrine, the human ship flowed like water, changing direction and speed in ways that made it almost impossible to target. Sir, Yujin called out, I am taking us through their formation. They cannot hit what they cannot predict. The alien ships tried to adjust their fire, but they were too slow and too rigid in their thinking. The resilience slipped between their energy beams like a dancer avoiding raindrops. Daeho watched the tactical display and made his decision. Hansol, return fire. Target their weapon systems only. We want to disable them, not destroy them. Yes, sir. The human weapons were unlike anything the aliens had encountered. Instead of massive energy beams designed to destroy entire ships, the humans used precise targeted bursts that surgically removed specific systems. Within minutes, half the alien fleet was drifting helplessly in space, their weapons offline, but their crews unharmed. The remaining alien ships pulled back to a safer distance. The Crystal Commander appeared on screen again, but this time his light patterns showed confusion instead of arrogance. What are you? He asked. The Crystal Alien Commander stared at the human ship floating peacefully among his disabled fleet. His transparent body pulsed with lights that showed deep confusion and growing fear. In all his centuries of military service, he had never encountered anything like these strange beings who called themselves human. What are you? He repeated, his voice crackling through the communication system. Commander Daeho Park looked at his crew on the bridge of the Resilience. Each person sat calmly at their station, ready for whatever came next. They had trained for years to represent humanity in its first contact with alien civilization, and they were doing Earth proud. We are exactly what we said, Daeho replied. We are human beings from the planet Earth. We came here seeking peaceful contact with other intelligent species. Your attack was unnecessary, but we understand you were acting on incomplete information. The alien commander made gestures to someone off-screen. Other crystal beings moved around behind him, clearly in heated discussion. Their light patterns flickered rapidly, showing what could only be panic and disbelief. The ancient stories describe humans as weak creatures who cannot survive hardship, the commander said. They say you are ruled by emotions and make poor decisions in battle. Yet you have just defeated 37 of our best warships without breaking concentration. Hansol Lee looked up from his tactical station. Sir, more ships are approaching. I count over 100 vessels from different species. Word is spreading fast. Daeho nodded. He had expected this. News of humanity's arrival would travel through whatever communication networks the galaxy used. Every species would want to see if the legends were true. Commander, said Yujin Kim from her navigation post. We are receiving messages from dozens of different sources. The universal translator is working overtime to process all the different languages. What are they saying? Daeho asked. Minho Jiang worked frantically at his communications console. Most of them are asking the same questions, sir. They want to know if we are really human. Some are demanding proof. A few are offering alliance and... He paused, checking his readings again. Some are declaring us enemies of their gods. So Young Choi called from her engineering station. Sir, I am detecting massive hyperspace distortions throughout this sector. Ships are jumping in from everywhere. This is going to be the biggest gathering of alien species in recorded history. Through the main view screen, they could see ships of every shape and size materializing in space around them. Some looked like organic creatures grown rather than built. Others appeared to be pure geometry made solid. A few defied description entirely, seeming to bend space around themselves just by existing. The Crystal Commander was still on screen, but now other alien faces appeared in smaller windows. The communication system showed at least 20 different species all trying to talk at once. The translator worked desperately to keep up with the flood of languages. "Silence," shouted a new voice, deeper and more commanding than the others. The smaller communication windows disappeared, leaving only 2 screens active. One still showed the Crystal Commander, now looking very nervous. The other displayed a being that seemed ancient beyond measure. The new alien looked like it was made of living stone with deep cracks running through its surface that glowed with inner fire. When it spoke, its voice carried the weight of centuries. "I am High Chancellor Woljin Nam of the Galactic Council," the stone being said. "I have ruled this galaxy for 3,000 of your Earth years. I have seen species rise and fall, empires built and destroyed, but I have never seen anything like what just happened here." Deho straightened in his command chair. This was clearly someone important, possibly the leader of whatever government controlled this part of space. "High Chancellor, I am honored to meet you. We come seeking peaceful relations with all intelligent species. The stories of humans exist in every culture across the galaxy," Woljin continued. "Every species has tales of creatures who could adapt to anything, survive impossible situations, and fight with honor even against overwhelming odds. We thought these were just myths shared between civilizations." Behind the High Chancellor, other ancient beings moved in what appeared to be a massive council chamber. Each one looked like it belonged to a different species, but all of them seemed focused on the conversation happening with the humans. "The patterns in our folklore are too consistent to be coincidence," another council member said, appearing in a third communication window. This being looked like it was made of pure energy, held in a vaguely humanoid shape. "Every culture describes humans as mentally flexible problem solvers who form bonds across species lines. They say humans learn languages quickly and treat enemies with something called fair play," added a fourth counselor who appeared to be some kind of plant creature with leaves that changed color as it spoke. Deho felt the weight of galactic history pressing down on him. These beings had been telling stories about humans for thousands of years, long before Earth had developed space travel. "How was that possible?" "High Chancellor," he said carefully, "we are puzzled by these stories you mention. Humanity only achieved interstellar flight 50 years ago. We have never been to this part of the galaxy before today." The stone being's glowing cracks pulsed brighter. "That makes the situation even more interesting. Either the stories represent some form of racial memory or prediction, or your species has visited our galaxy before and somehow erased all record of it." Han Sol raised his hand slightly to get attention. "Sir, with permission, there might be another explanation." Deho nodded. "Go ahead, Lieutenant." "The stories could be describing the kind of species that would eventually develop interstellar travel," Han Sol suggested. "Maybe the qualities that make humans good explorers and survivors are the same ones that appear in myths about ideal beings." The council members looked at each other across their communication channels. The idea seemed to resonate with them in ways that were obvious even across species lines. "Remarkable," said the energy being. "The myths may not describe humans as they were, but as they needed to become in order to join galactic civilization. Which means," added the plant creature, "that humanity's arrival was not just predicted, but inevitable." High Chancellor Woljin leaned forward in his ancient chair. "Commander Park, would you be willing to meet with our full council? We have many questions, and it appears we have much to learn from each other." "We would be honored," Deho replied. Around them, the gathered alien fleets maintained their positions, watching history unfold. The galaxy had spent millennia telling stories about humans without believing they existed. Now those same humans were about to take their place among the stars, bringing with them all the qualities that had made them legendary before they ever left home. Captain Unseo Park walked slowly through the massive corridors of the Galactic Council Station. The walls stretched high above her head, covered in artwork and symbols from hundreds of different civilizations. Each step echoed in the vast space, reminding her that she was very far from home. As the lead diplomat for humanity, Yunseo had spent years studying alien cultures and preparing for first contact. But nothing could have prepared her for the reality of walking among beings who had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. Lieutenant Kyungmin Yu followed close behind, carrying the diplomatic cases that contained Earth's gifts and cultural materials. His eyes moved constantly, taking in every detail of their surroundings. The responsibility of representing all humanity weighed heavily on both of them. "Captain," Kyungmin whispered, "there must be representatives from 50 different species here. I have never seen so many different forms of life in one place." Yunseo nodded without turning around. Through the transparent sections of the corridor walls, she could see various aliens preparing for the formal meeting. Some looked almost human, while others defied description. A few seemed to exist partially outside normal space, appearing as shifting shadows or patterns of light. They reached the main council chamber and Yunseo paused at the entrance. The room was enormous, designed to accommodate beings of vastly different sizes and environmental needs. The ceiling disappeared into darkness high above, while the floor was divided into sections with different atmospheres and gravity settings. "The humans have arrived," announced a mechanical voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Every being in the chamber turned to look at them. Yunseo felt the weight of countless eyes, sensors, and other detection methods focused on her small, human form. These were the rulers of galactic civilization, and they were all staring at her with intense curiosity. High Chancellor Woljin Nam rose from his position at the center of the chamber, the ancient stone being moved slowly but with obvious authority. When he spoke, his deep voice carried clearly through the vast space. "Captain Yunseo Park of Earth," he said formally, "you are welcome in this place of law and order. We gather today to witness something that has never happened before. The arrival of a species that was legend before it was reality." Yunseo walked forward to the speaking area in the center of the chamber. Her footsteps sounded very small in the enormous room, but her voice was clear and confident when she replied. "High Chancellor, honored members of the Council, I bring greetings from Earth and all humanity. We come seeking friendship and mutual understanding with all intelligent species." A ripple of sound moved through the chamber as the various aliens discussed her words in their different languages. The universal translator worked constantly to keep up with the flood of communication. Counselor Jin Ao rose from her crystal platform. Her transparent body sparkled with internal lights as she spoke. "Captain Park, we must ask about the stories. Every species in this chamber has folklore about humans. Tales passed down through generations about creatures who could survive anything and adapt to any challenge. The stories are remarkably consistent," added another counselor, a being that looked like flowing liquid metal. "Humans are described as natural diplomats who can find common ground with anyone. They are said to learn languages quickly and treat even enemies with respect." Yunseo listened carefully as more council members shared their cultural stories about humans. Each species had slightly different details, but the core themes remained the same. Humans were described as stubborn survivors who never gave up, creative problem solvers who thought outside normal patterns, and natural leaders who brought out the best in others. "These stories fascinate us," she replied when the sharing was complete, "but they also confuse us. Humanity only achieved spaceflight 50 years ago. We have no record of ever visiting your civilizations before today." The chief archivist, an entity called Jae Won-sung, materialized as a hologram in the center of the speaking area. "Captain, we have studied this mystery extensively. The human stories exist in cultures that have never had contact with each other. Some tales are older than recorded history." Images appeared in the air around the chamber, showing ancient artwork and written records from dozens of different worlds. Each one depicted beings that looked remarkably human, engaged in activities that matched the folklore descriptions perfectly. "The evidence suggests three possibilities," Jaewon continued. "Either humans visited this galaxy in ancient times, and all records were lost, Or the stories represent some form of species memory about what intelligent life should become, or there are forces at work that we do not understand. A new voice spoke from the shadows at the edge of the chamber. The being that emerged looked like it was made of pure darkness, with small stars twinkling within its form. There is a fourth possibility. Perhaps the humans are exactly what the stories claim they are, and their arrival now means something significant for galactic civilization. The chamber fell silent as this idea sank in. Many of the council members looked uncomfortable, as if they were considering possibilities they had never wanted to face. High Chancellor Woljin leaned forward in his ancient seat. "Captain Park, would you be willing to undergo cultural and physical examination? We wish to compare your actual capabilities with the legendary descriptions." Yoon Seo looked around the chamber at the assembled representatives of galactic power. These beings had ruled space for millennia without challenge. Now they were asking to study humanity like specimens in a laboratory. "We will cooperate with reasonable scientific study," she replied carefully. "But we also request that this be a mutual exchange. We would like to learn about your civilizations just as you learn about ours." The request caused another ripple of discussion through the chamber. Many of the aliens seemed surprised by the idea of mutual study rather than simple examination. "You seek equality rather than approval," observed one counselor who looked like a giant insect made of living crystal. "The stories say humans have no concept of natural hierarchy. They treat all intelligent beings as potential equals. We believe intelligence and consciousness deserve respect regardless of the form they take," Yunseo confirmed. "We hope to build relationships based on mutual benefit rather than dominance." The plant counselor who had spoken earlier rustled its colorful leaves. "Remarkable. Even your diplomatic philosophy matches the folklore. You seek cooperation where others seek advantage." High Chancellor Woljin struck his staff against the floor, creating a deep ringing sound that commanded attention. "Then let us proceed with mutual study. Captain Park, select representatives of your species to work with our scientists and cultural experts." "We will do the same. We also propose joint projects," Yunseo added. "Perhaps working together on common problems will teach us more about each other than simple study alone." The suggestion created the biggest reaction yet. Council members began talking rapidly among themselves in dozens of different languages. The idea of working as equals with a newly arrived species was clearly revolutionary. "What problems do you believe we share?" asked the energy being from earlier. Yunseo smiled. "Every intelligent species faces questions about their place in the universe, their responsibilities to others, and their hopes for the future. Perhaps together we can find better answers than any of us could discover alone." The chamber erupted in discussion. The age of galactic hierarchy was beginning to crack, replaced by something new and unprecedented. Humanity had arrived not as conquerors or subjects, but as partners in the great adventure of existence among the stars. Dr. Sung-Ho Bei stood in the largest laboratory he had ever seen, surrounded by alien scientists who studied him with the same intense curiosity he felt toward them. The research station orbited a beautiful blue star, and through the massive windows he could see ships from dozens of different species coming and going constantly. 3 weeks had passed since the formal first contact meetings, and the joint research project was producing discoveries that amazed everyone involved. As Earth's leading expert on alien biology, Seung-ho had expected to spend most of his time studying how different species had evolved. Instead, he found himself being studied just as much. "Your cellular structure is remarkable," said Dr. Velnara, a scientist whose body looked like it was made of living coral. Her voice came through the translator with obvious excitement. "Most species specialize as they evolve, becoming very good at surviving in specific environments. Humans seem to have evolved to be generalists, capable of adapting to almost anything." Seung-ho looked at the biological scans displayed on the floating holographic screens around them. His human DNA was being compared to genetic samples from 47 different alien species, and the results were surprising everyone. "Your genetic diversity is unprecedented," added Dr. Keth Morin, a being that resembled a walking tree with crystalline bark. "Most intelligent species achieve unity by becoming genetically similar. Humans achieved unity while maintaining incredible variety within their species. The research was revealing things about humanity that even humans had never fully understood. Earth's harsh and constantly changing environment had forced its inhabitants to become adaptable survivors. While other species had evolved to master specific challenges, humans had evolved to handle any challenge that came along. Meanwhile, in another section of the station, tactical analyst Hiram Ko worked with alien military experts to study human approaches to conflict and cooperation. The aliens were fascinated by humanity's military history, which showed patterns unlike anything in their own experience. "You fight like water," observed General Thek Valor, a massive insectoid being whose species had dominated galactic military thinking for centuries. "Your strategies flow around obstacles instead of trying to break through them directly. We have never encountered anything like it." Hiram stood before a three-dimensional battle simulation that filled the entire room. The display showed historical, human conflicts alongside alien military engagements, highlighting the differences in thinking and approach. Human military doctrine emphasizes flexibility and adaptation, she explained. "We study our enemies and adjust our tactics based on what we learn. Most of our greatest victories came from doing something unexpected." The alien generals watching the demonstration seemed both impressed and worried. Their own military traditions were based on hierarchy, discipline, and following proven methods. The human approach of constant innovation and tactical flexibility was completely foreign to them. "Your species has fought wars against itself for thousands of years," noted another alien officer. "Yet you still maintained enough cooperation to achieve spaceflight and unite your planet. How is this possible?" Hiram considered the question carefully. "We learned that fighting and cooperation are not opposites. Competition makes us stronger, but we always remember that we share the same home. Our conflicts taught us how to resolve differences without destroying what we value." In the cultural studies section, Dr. Dongwook Im made perhaps the most important discoveries of all. His research into the folklore patterns was revealing connections that stretched across the entire galaxy and back through thousands of years of history. "The human stories appear in civilizations that had no contact with each other," he explained to a group of alien historians and cultural experts. "But the patterns are too consistent to be coincidence. There must be some underlying reason for these shared myths." The ancient alien scholars listened intently as Dongwook presented his findings. Historical records from dozens of worlds all contained similar stories about creatures who could survive anything, adapt to any environment, and bring different species together in cooperation. "The stories may represent a form of species memory," suggested an elderly historian whose form was constantly shifting between different shapes. "Perhaps all intelligent life carries genetic memories of what perfect cooperation would look like." "Or," added another scholar who looked like a living constellation of stars, "the stories describe the kind of species that would be needed to bring true peace to the galaxy. A species capable of understanding and working with anyone." The implications were staggering. If the folklore represented some kind of universal ideal, then humanity's arrival might signal a fundamental change in how galactic civilization operated. Back in the main laboratory, the biological research was producing equally remarkable results. The alien scientists were discovering that human adaptability went far beyond simple genetic diversity. "Your brain structure is unique," Dr. Velnara reported to Seung-ho. "Most species develop intelligence that works well for their specific environment and challenges. Human intelligence appears designed for general problem-solving across many different situations." The scans showed that human neural pathways were unusually flexible, capable of forming new connections and adapting to new information much faster than typical alien brains. This mental adaptability matched perfectly with the physical adaptability that had allowed humans to survive on Earth's challenging world. "More interesting still," added Dr. Keth Morin, "your emotional system seemed designed to form bonds across species lines. Most intelligent beings can only fully empathize with their own kind. Humans appear capable of emotional connection with any sufficiently complex consciousness." The research station buzzed with activity as scientists from across the galaxy worked alongside human experts. The cultural exchange was producing benefits for everyone involved. Human innovation was helping solve problems that had puzzled alien scientists for centuries, while alien knowledge was expanding human understanding of the universe. But the most significant discovery came from the joint projects themselves. When humans and aliens worked together, they achieved results that neither could accomplish alone. Human creativity and adaptability combined with alien knowledge and resources to create solutions that were truly revolutionary. We are seeing something that has never happened before in galactic history, reported High Chancellor Woljin Nam during a council session broadcast throughout known space. True cooperative research between equals, producing advances that benefit everyone involved. The integration process was changing both sides. Humans were learning about technologies and philosophies that opened new possibilities for their species. Aliens were discovering that cooperation with equals was more productive than the hierarchical systems they had used for millennia. As the research continued, one thing became increasingly clear. The ancient stories had been right about humanity's role in galactic civilization. They were not conquerors or subjects, but catalysts for change. Their arrival marked the beginning of a new age of cooperation and discovery. The galaxy was learning that some legends were worth becoming reality. Admiral Ji-hoon Shin stood on the bridge of the UES Harmony, watching the emergency fleet assembly through the massive viewport. Ships from every major species in the galaxy had gathered in response to the crisis alert that had shaken galactic civilization to its core. The Void Reapers were moving again. For 10,000 years, the galaxy had maintained an uneasy peace with the ancient machine intelligence that consumed entire star systems. The Galactic Council had built a containment zone around Reaper territory, accepting the loss of those systems as the price of keeping the machines from spreading further. Now the containment had failed. "Admiral," reported his communications officer, a six-armed alien from the hegemony, who had requested transfer to human command. "We are receiving updates from the outer monitoring stations. The Reapers have broken through at 17 different points along the containment border." Ji-hoon studied the tactical displays that showed the scale of the disaster. Red indicators marked system after system falling to the machine invasion. Each red dot represented billions of lives lost and entire civilizations destroyed. "How many ships do we have in the fleet?" he asked his human tactical officer. "Over 3,000 vessels from 42 different species," Lieutenant Commander Tae-sung replied. "It is the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history." The fleet was impressive, but Ji-hoon knew the numbers were deceiving. The various species had never worked together in combat before. Their ships used different technologies, different tactics, and different command structures. Normally such, a diverse force would be more dangerous to itself than to any enemy. But these were not normal times. The integration projects that had followed first contact were paying unexpected benefits. Human and alien crews had been training together for months, learning each other's strengths and finding ways to work as unified teams. "Sir," called his alien navigation officer, "High Chancellor Woljin Nam is requesting conference with all fleet commanders." The main screen activated to show the bridge of the Council flagship, the ancient stone being looked older than Ji-hoon had ever seen him, with deeper cracks running through his rocky surface and dimmer light glowing within. "Commanders," Woljin began without ceremony, "the situation is worse than our worst projections. The Reapers are not just breaking containment randomly. Their attacks show coordination and planning that we have never seen before. They are learning." A chill ran through every bridge in the fleet. The Void Reapers had always been dangerous because of their technological superiority and relentless advance. If they were now capable of strategic thinking and coordination, they became an existential threat to all organic life. "What are our options?" asked Admiral Kexthara of the Dominion fleet, her crystal form flickering with worry patterns. "Traditional doctrine calls for falling back and establishing a new containment line," replied General Moore Venix from his insectoid command ship. "We sacrifice the outer systems and protect the core worlds." Ji-hoon listened to the discussion with growing frustration. The alien commanders were thinking in terms of damage control and acceptable losses. They were prepared to abandon billions of beings to save billions more. With respect, he interrupted, there is another option. We attack the Reaper core systems directly. The communication channels fell silent. Every alien commander stared at the human admiral, as if he had suggested flying directly into a star. Admiral Shin, Woljin said carefully, direct assault on the Reaper core has been attempted many times throughout history. Every attempt has resulted in total destruction of the attacking forces. Previous attempts failed because they used conventional tactics against an unconventional enemy, Ji-hoon replied. The Reapers expect us to react predictably. They have prepared for standard military responses over thousands of years of conflict. He activated his tactical display, showing the fleet commanders a battle plan unlike anything in galactic military doctrine. Instead of massive frontal assaults or defensive formations, the human strategy called for small, fast-moving groups that would strike multiple targets simultaneously. We divide our forces into mixed species task groups, Ji-hoon explained. Each group combines human tactical flexibility with alien technological advantages. We hit the Reapers from directions they do not expect, using methods they have never encountered. Admiral Kexthera studied the plan with obvious skepticism. This strategy requires perfect coordination between species that have never fought together. One mistake could result in disaster for the entire fleet. The integration training has prepared us for this, argued Captain Yeonsu Park, Ji-hoon's tactical coordinator. Human and alien crews have been learning to work together for months. We know each other's capabilities and limitations. The debate continued for hours as military leaders from across the galaxy examined every aspect of the proposed strategy. Some supported the bold approach, while others preferred the safety of traditional containment tactics. Finally, High Chancellor Woljin called for silence. The decision rests with the Council, but I will hear recommendations from all fleet commanders. One by one, the alien leaders voiced their opinions. Most supported the conservative approach of establishing new defensive lines and accepting the loss of outer systems. The cost in lives would be enormous, but it was a cost they understood and had paid before. When it came time for Ji-hoon to speak, he looked directly into the communication screen. Honored Chancellor, the galaxy has been telling stories about humans for thousands of years. Those stories describe beings who refuse to accept defeat, who find hope in hopeless situations, and who inspire others to attempt the impossible. He paused, letting his words sink in. Today you have the chance to discover if those stories are true. We can retreat and count our losses, or we can advance and fight for every life threatened by this ancient enemy. The communication channels buzzed with discussion in dozens of different languages. The translator systems worked frantically to keep up with the flood of debate and argument. The human approach violates every principle of safe military doctrine, observed one alien commander. But safe military doctrine has never defeated the Reapers, replied another. Perhaps it is time to try something different. High Chancellor Woljin raised his staff for attention. The Council will vote. All those in favor of the direct assault strategy. Lights appeared on the communication grid as Council members cast their votes. Ji-hoon watched the count climb, knowing that the fate of galactic civilization hung in the balance. The final tally was close, but decisive. The galaxy had chosen to follow human leadership into the greatest battle in its history. Admiral Shin, Woljin announced formally, you are hereby granted supreme command of the combined galactic fleet. May the courage that brought your species to the stars guide us all in the trials ahead. Ji-hoon felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders like a mountain. 3,000 ships and their crews were now under his command, along with the hopes of every intelligent species in known space. The legends were about to be tested against the most dangerous enemy the galaxy had ever faced. The combined fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Void Reaper territory, and the sight that greeted them was beyond anything the galaxy's defenders had imagined. Hundreds of machine ships moved through space like living metal predators, each one the size of a small moon and bristling with weapons that could crack planets. Admiral Ji-hoon Shin stood on the bridge of the UES Harmony, watching his diverse fleet spread out according to the battle plan they had rehearsed during the journey. Human ships moved alongside alien vessels in perfect coordination, each mixed task group representing the best qualities of multiple species working together. All task groups report ready, Admiral, announced Captain Yansu Park from her tactical station. The enemy has detected our arrival and is moving to intercept. Ji-hoon studied the holographic display that showed the positions of both fleets. The Reapers were forming up in their traditional battle formation, a massive wall of firepower designed to obliterate anything that approached their core systems. It was the same formation that had destroyed every previous assault force. They expect us to attack directly, he observed, just like every other fleet that has challenged them. Task Groups 7 through 15, begin your approach runs. The first wave of mixed ships accelerated toward the Reaper line, drawing the attention of the machine intelligence just as planned. The Reapers shifted their formation to meet this apparent threat, concentrating their firepower on what looked like a conventional assault. Meanwhile, the remaining task groups used the distraction to move into positions the Reapers had not anticipated. Human tactical thinking had identified weaknesses in the machine formation that no one had noticed in 10,000 years of conflict. Task Group 7 is taking heavy fire, reported the communications officer. They are requesting permission to withdraw. Negative, Ji-hoon replied calmly. Tell them to maintain their approach until the last possible moment, then execute evasive pattern alpha. On the tactical display, the first wave of ships suddenly scattered in directions that seemed random but were actually carefully calculated. The Reaper weapons, designed to target predictable flight patterns, missed most of their intended victims as the Allied ships danced between the energy beams. Now, Ji-hoon commanded, task groups that had been hidden behind asteroids and debris suddenly emerged, attacking the Reaper flanks from angles the machines had left undefended. The combined alien and human weapons struck with precision that had been impossible before the integration training. Direct hits on 7 Reaper vessels, reported Captain Park. Their formation is beginning to break apart. But the victory was temporary. The machine intelligence adapted quickly, adjusting its tactics to counter the new threat. Reaper ships began moving in ways they had never done before, showing the same kind of flexibility that had made human forces so effective. They are learning from us, observed Admiral Kex-Thera over the communication channel. The machines are copying our tactics in real time. Ji-hoon had expected this. The Reapers were ancient and intelligent, capable of analyzing and adapting to any strategy they encountered. That was why no conventional approach had ever succeeded against them. All task groups implement pattern delta, he ordered. The fleet suddenly changed its entire approach. Instead of trying to destroy the Reaper ships directly, they began targeting the communication links between the machines. Human electronic warfare specialists worked alongside alien technology experts to disrupt the network that allowed the Reapers to coordinate their actions. Sir, we are detecting massive disruption in their command structure, reported the alien sensor operator. The Reapers are having difficulty coordinating their response. The tide of battle began to shift. Without perfect coordination, the machine fleet lost much of its advantage. Individual Reaper ships were still incredibly dangerous, but they were no longer fighting as a unified force. Task Groups 1 through 6 begin final approach to the core system, Ji-hoon ordered. All other groups maintain harassment of the outer fleet. The assault on the Reaper core represented the most dangerous part of the plan. At the center of machine territory lay the source of their power, a massive construct that had been building and expanding for millions of years. No organic force had ever come close to reaching it. Commander Daeho Park led the core assault group in the original UES Resilience, the ship that had made first contact with alien civilization. Around him flew vessels from dozens of species, all working together with the precision that months of integration training had made possible. We are approaching the outer defenses, he reported as massive weapon installations began firing at the approaching fleet. Beginning evasive maneuvers, the core defenses were unlike anything in the outer fleet. These were weapons designed to protect the most important target in Reaper space, capable of destroying entire fleets with single shots. But the mixed task groups moved like schools of fish, never presenting a concentrated target for the massive guns. Human pilot techniques combined with alien technology allowed the assault ships to slip between the defensive fire like water flowing around rocks. Ships that should have been vaporized survived by working together, covering each other and sharing the burden of the attack. We have visual on the core construct. Captain Yunseo Park reported from her diplomatic vessel, now converted for combat operations. It is larger than our entire home system. The Reaper core was a nightmare of metal and energy that stretched across space like a mechanical galaxy. At its center pulsed the intelligence that had directed machine expansion for eons, the source of all the galaxy's fears. All ships prepare for synchronized strike, Deho commanded. We get one chance at this. The assault group released every weapon they carried in a coordinated barrage that combined the destructive power of multiple species. Human precision guidance systems directed alien energy weapons and exotic matter bombs toward the exact center of the construct. For a moment that seemed to last forever, space itself seemed to hold its breath. Then light brighter than a star erupted from the core as the ancient intelligence finally met something it could not adapt to or overcome. The explosion of the Reaper core sent shockwaves through both space and hyperspace. Across the galaxy, every machine ship suddenly stopped moving as the network that controlled them went dark. The threat that had haunted civilization for 10,000 years was finally ended. All task groups report status, Ji-hoon requested. As the celebration began, the victory had come at a cost. Many ships had been lost and brave beings from dozens of species had given their lives. But for the first time in galactic history, organic life had proven that no enemy was too powerful to defeat when intelligence worked together instead of apart. Admiral, High Chancellor Wol Jin Nam appeared on the communication screen, his ancient face showing relief and something that might have been pride. The galaxy owes humanity a debt that can never be fully repaid. Ji-hoon looked around his bridge at the mixed crew of humans and aliens who had made victory possible. No debt is owed, Chancellor. We simply proved that the old stories were true. When different species work together as equals, anything becomes possible. The age of human legend had ended. The age of galactic cooperation had begun, and with it came possibilities that no one had dared to imagine before the day humanity proved that some myths were worth becoming reality.